One.
Hi, I'm Lisa A. Smith. I am a certified personal trainer, the author of The Plant-Based Foodie, the founder of the Black Health Academy and Professionally Fit, and the creator of a plant-based course called Farm to Table. And I am so happy to be here with you today to talk about the importance of establishing non-negotiables. So on this wild, crazy journey to health, right, there are plenty of peaks and valleys and ups and downs. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my own personal story and provide you with one of the major tools I've used to maintain my results over many years. You know, full time, I work as a health coach, a professional speaker, and a facilitator, a teacher. And the common thread that I see among all of my students is not necessarily trying to find the perfect strategy to reach their goals, but trying to figure out the perfect methodology for their own life to maintain those results that they get after reaching their goals. And that was the same exact battle that I had in my own weight loss journey. So I used to be 65 pounds heavier than what I am now. And back in 2012, I hired my very first personal trainer. So here I was working as a lowly social worker for the state of Michigan in foster care. And I thought this was my forever career, right? I thought social work was it. I have a bachelor's in psychology, I have an MBA, and I decided to go with the social sciences, kind of following in my mom and my aunt's footsteps. And so I'm working as a social worker at the state of Michigan, and I had a coworker who was extremely healthy, extremely fit, and she used to come in the break room every day and make the same parfait with like yogurt and blueberries and granola, and she would seemingly eat the same thing every single day, and she looked the part. She looked fit, she looked healthy, she was always moving quickly, she just seemed really sharp. And so I asked her, I said, Tiffany, do you eat the same things every single day? And she said, yes. And when it kind of sparked up a conversation about health, and she told me that she, moonlighted as a personal trainer. So she too was a social worker, but her passion was health and wellness. And she invited me to her gym and invited me to become one of her clients. And so I did just that. And Tiffany and I started my journey on to weight loss, right? And so Tiffany was a phenomenal personal trainer, still is to this day. She actually works with me now at my company. Tiffany is absolutely amazing. But me and Tiffany's relationship was strictly based on the physical fitness. It was all about exercise, which she did phenomenal at. And so starting from January 2012, all the way through to October of that same year, Tiffany helped me lose about 30 pounds. And I was ecstatic because the reason I initially wanted to explore getting more healthy and changing my diet was simply because I was dissatisfied with what I saw in the mirror, right? I wanted all of the insecurities that I saw when I looked in the mirror to go away. And for me, that meant losing weight, right? That's what I initially thought. And so Tiffany helped me lose those first 30 pounds. Now, fast forward to the end of that year, October of that year, I actually got one of my dream positions, which was an internship with the federal government, and I actually got my first choice of location, which was Rome, Italy. So I decided to make a super bold move, cash in my 401k, resign from my cushy state job, and uproot and move across the world to Rome. And that's exactly what I did. Now, I still have more weight to lose, right? And so I took what Tiffany taught me and I began to implement those things living in Rome. Exercising regularly, drinking my water, and eating as clean as I knew to at the time. Me and Tiffany, again, didn't go over much nutrition. So, like with many health and wellness programs, the focus was on movement and it wasn't on nutrition at that time. Today, it's very different. There's a plethora of ways to get nutrition information. But back then, it was really about getting in the gym and moving and sweating those calories away. And so here I am living in Rome, and I am in a completely different ecosystem. I don't have a vehicle, so I'm walking everywhere, taking transportation. I don't speak the first language, right? And I have to learn how to grocery shop and how to dine out, and how to say the little Italian that I needed to say to maybe enroll in the exercise class or to buy things at a store. And so I was able to continue to lose weight. And I think partly because I was just burning even more calories living in a foreign city where I didn't have my own vehicle. And so I'm sightseeing in this beautiful city, every day after work. And it was just a wonderful experience. So I continued to exercise, actually, joined the gym in Rome, and I continued to exercise and continue to lose weight. Well, I got back from Italy that following year, decided that I absolutely loved living abroad and wanted to do it again. So I up and left maybe 6 or 7 months later and decided to move to China and teach English as a second language. Now in China, it was the same thing, a new ecosystem, no vehicle, don't speak the same language, had to get acclimated to the cuisine, had to get acclimated, to the infrastructure of the country and just, the different cultural aspects. And so here I am, again, I've developed this love for exercising. And so I'm trying to continue to do it. And I do just that. I find a gym, I'm the only Black person in this gym here in Foshan, China, and I'm working out every day. And I'm so committed to the physical fitness part. And I'm totally committed to even eating healthy, right? I was still eating meat and dairy at the time, but I was eating cleaner. It wasn't any fast food. It wasn't a whole bunch of junk food, right? It was things that were made from scratch. And then in China, a lot of the eating, just like in Rome, is communal, right? And so oftentimes I find myself at the table with my other, colleagues, other expats, my Chinese colleagues, friends that I had met living in the country. And so we would have this lazy Susan in the middle of the table, and we would all share these variety of dishes. And so we're eating, most everything was mostly vegetables or grains, right? And then there will be a small bit of meat. And but the meat was more of a flavor in, and we would all, several of us, be sharing this small portion of meat. And so I continued to lose weight. Right. So by the time I got back to the US after living in these two countries back to back, I was down 65 pounds. And so I always like to tell my story because before I became a plant-based vegan, I lost all my weight still eating meat and dairy. So I got back to the US and, my mom decided I was a little too small. I need to go put some of my weight back on. And I decided to do that with weightlifting, right, in a healthy manner. So I did that with weightlifting. But, the thing that has really been integral in me being able to keep the weight off after all of these years has been the fact that I've established some firm non-negotiables. And when I think back on my journey and the tools that I've used to maintain this weight loss, it's been first and foremost those non-negotiables that have kept me rooted to my core values. And so I want to go through a little bit of that with you today. Because when I got back to the US, I absolutely decided that I was in love with health and wellness. I was in love with physical fitness. I was no longer going to pursue a career in the social sciences, and I was going to become a personal trainer. So here I am, thousands of dollars in debt for these degrees, and all I had to do was go get certified as a personal trainer for a couple $100 for a new career. So I'm like, what am I going to do with a BA in psychology, MBA? That comes later, turned out. But so, I decided I'm going to become a personal trainer. That's exactly what I did. I joined a little boutique gym in a small suburb outside of Detroit, Michigan, and began doing personal training, and quickly realized that the emphasis being strictly on physical fitness simply was not enough for people to reach their goals. And so I started focusing on nutrition and studying nutrition and kind of learning the science behind nutrition. And I absolutely fell in love. I'm a bit of a book nerd. I absolutely love learning. I love studying. I love school. And so I began studying nutrition at a really deep level, began, implementing some of the things I was learning in my own regimen. So I slowly began to eliminate animal products out of my diet. And that landed me to becoming a vegan. And when I did that, I had already lost all my weight. So me becoming vegan only resulted in about 5 extra pounds of weight loss because my body was already very close to its ideal weight, right? However, the absolute biggest impact for me was my cognitive functioning. How my brain worked on a plant-based diet was a game changer. Now, I said I became vegan, But I want to note here that I didn't truly become plant-based until a couple years later. When I'm teaching my students and when I'm doing lectures to my audiences, I always like to make a distinction between just being vegan and being plant-based vegan, because those can be two totally different things, meaning vegan is simply the absence of animal products, whereas plant-based vegan is the absence of animal products plus the absence of processed foods and refined sugars, and really paying close attention to what we call SOS, salt, oil, and sugar, right? So it's totally possible to be vegan technically and eat a whole bunch of unhealthy food, not get all of your micronutrients, your macronutrients. And so being plant-based vegan, which is what we're striving to teach here in this series, is really about getting everything you need from your plate, and mostly plants, right? And so Oreos are vegan, pop is vegan, potato chips are vegan, French fries are vegan. There's certainly a way to be vegan and still be overweight, still be suffering from chronic disease and chronic fatigue and chronic stress. But if you're truly using nutrition here to attain optimal health, it's truly about making sure you're getting everything you need from whole, unmanipulated food. And so it's important for me to make that distinction, because as we talk about non-negotiables today, one of the biggest pushbacks I get is like, look, this is hard, right? I didn't grow up on these things. I'm intimidated by a lot of these foods. And I don't know, I can do this maybe for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or for like a 30 challenge, but really maintaining this as a lifestyle is quite often overwhelming for people. And so when I decided that I was going to pursue a career in health and wellness, I went full throttle, like all out. I was a personal trainer for several years, and the gentleman that I was working for thought I was exceptional. And so I asked him to be my mentor when I decided to start my first company in 2015. And he's a phenomenal mentor even to this day. And I started my first health and wellness company, Professionally Fit, in 2015, and decided, I was going to take this thing and make it a plant-based company, a plant-based personal training company, when we did online personal training only, no brick and mortar. And I absolutely loved it. And by this time, I'm going full throttle. I've eliminated the meat. I've eliminated the dairy. I was still dabbling in seafood from time to time, but I continued to study and I continued to learn. And at Professionally Fit, we offered high performance training for high performance professionals, right? More like executive wellness, right? So our target audience were, C-suite, corporate people, entrepreneurs, people who really worked at a high level and needed to pay really key attention to their health to maintain a certain level of productivity in their business. And what I quickly found is that I was excluding a large portion of the population who needed this information, this content as well. And so I started my second company, the Black Health Academy, in 2017. So it's important to note that along this journey, I'm still transforming myself. I'm totally vegan, but now I'm starting to hone in on some key things like my sugar consumption. So at the top of 2019, I completely decided to give up refined sugar. Like absolutely not an ounce of refined sugar would be allowed in my diet. And what I was able to do successfully to help me get off of sugar and also to maintain that status of a sugar-free lifestyle is really tap into my non-negotiables. So now let's go into what that looks like. I always like to tell people a little bit about my story, because oftentimes, if they follow me now or they attend my lectures or enroll in one of my courses, people say things like, I'm not where you are, or, I know you probably won't approve of this, but, here's what I had, or I'm not as good as you yet. And so I like to always, tell what I had to overcome to become plant-based, because my journey to, being plant-based vegan wasn't a straight line to success. It had peaks and valleys like everyone's story does. But at some point, you have to have more valleys than peaks. And so how do you attain that? And that, my friends, is called non-negotiable. So what is a non-negotiable? A non-negotiable is an established rule or principle for your life, right? For your being. It's very personal to you, meaning it's not something that everyone else is doing. It's not based off in general what the world says health looks like. But a non-negotiable is something that you've established for your life that fits perfectly in alignment with what you're trying to achieve for your health. Now, non-negotiables can range across any area of your life, whether it be financial or, relational or professional or whatever. We're just happen to be talking about health today. But please understand, I highly encourage you to apply this principle of establishing non-negotiables to every area of your life, because it will be a game changer. But a non-negotiable is not something that has a timestamp on it. So a non-negotiable doesn't expire after 21 days, 30 days, 45 days, or 90 days. A non-negotiable doesn't care about whether or not it's a weekday or a weekend. A non-negotiable doesn't care whether or not you're on or off vacation. And most importantly, a non-negotiable has absolutely nothing to do with feelings. Okay, I'm going to repeat that one again. A non-negotiable has absolutely nothing to do with your feelings. It is so important to understand that when establishing non-negotiables for your life, in whatever area that may be in, how you feel, what you're in the mood for does not play a role. It does not factor into the equation. A non-negotiable is immovable, unshakable. It is completely down to what am I supposed to do? What did I say I'm going to adhere to? And there is nothing that can get in the way of that thing. So let me give you some examples of what that looks like, because oftentimes when we're trying to make the transition to a healthy diet, plant-based vegan diet, or just trying to give up something that we have created a dependency on, like sugar, salt, oil, reality TV, overspending, whatever the dependency is, right? We oftentimes can do good for a short period of time, and then we will lose our footing, right? Or we beat ourselves up if we don't execute perfectly. So, for example, a lot of times, from week to week in my farm to table course that I teach, students will say, when they're reporting their food logs to me, they'll say, "Oh, this wasn't a great week. This wasn't, I've had better weeks," or this was a great week, but last week wasn't so good, right? And so sometimes they take that to be, a negative, in that I didn't do everything right. I slipped up and had a cookie or a piece of chocolate or a potato chip, or, I didn't get all my water in one of these days. And we really dwell on the marks that we didn't hit, right? And so I encourage students to establish non-negotiables, so that whatever marks you didn't hit, there'll always be those non-negotiables in place that you always do hit, regardless of the circumstances. Again, vacation, weekend, unexpected life events. Like, non-negotiables are non-negotiables. So here are a few non-negotiables that I've established for myself with regard to health, that has helped me to maintain a 65-pound weight loss over multiple years, that has helped me maintain a whole food, plant-based vegan diet where I absolutely will not touch meat, seafood, poultry, dairy, eggs, absolutely not. And that has also helped me to maintain a sugar-free or refined sugar-free lifestyle, right? So it's been a game changer. And my first non-negotiable is this: I drink half of my healthy body weight in ounces of water every single day, non-negotiable, right? Now, your non-negotiables always start with I will, I do, I am, right? Because this is an affirmative statement. So you always state what you're going to do, not what you won't do, but what you will do in the affirmative as much as possible. Sometimes there's small deviations from that, but always speak in the affirmative. So I will drink half of my healthy body weight in ounces of water every single day, non-negotiable. Now, it really helps if your non-negotiables are backed by something that's a little scientific or has a health benefit that can't be denied. Meaning, if I don't do this, there is going to be a very visible and obvious result of not executing, right? So here's what I mean. Out of all of the nutrients that we need about 102 vitamins and minerals to thrive every single day. We need 102 vitamins and minerals. However, we don't have to eat them all every single day in order for our levels to be optimal. Like we don't have to eat magnesium every single day, zinc every single day, iron every single day for us to have optimal levels. Our body stores a lot of these vitamins and minerals. However, our body does not store water day to day. We have to replenish our stores of water every single day. And that's partly why this is a non negotiable for me, because I know if I go a day without drinking half of my healthy body weight in ounces of water, then I'm literally going to be deficient in water. What I also know is if I go a day without drinking my water, I will not eliminate properly. I will feel dehydrated. My sleep will be different, right? And I also know that I'm not giving those nutrients that I do eat a vehicle to be transported throughout my body. So my meaning here is this: I know down to a fine science the importance of this water, and that's why it's a non-negotiable, right? And so as you learn throughout this series and these lessons, right, really take note of some of the science, the data, the facts, the numbers, because that will help you to establish those non-negotiables that are key. It's not just a matter of I want to do this because it seems like the right thing to do, or everybody else doing it, or it makes me feel good. But exactly why is this a non-negotiable for you? Like, make it very plain. And then again, what consequences are there if I don't follow through on this thing? Second non-negotiable for me: I read the ingredient label on every single thing that goes in and on my body. Now, this is my non-negotiable, right? Yours can be totally different. But again, why am I reading ingredients on every single thing that goes in or on my body? Well, number one, I'm a plant-based vegan. I don't consume animal products. So I don't want to slip up and consume something that has dairy in it, or I don't eat sugar. I don't want to consume something that has sugar in it without me knowing. I would be very, very disappointed. And what's the consequences of me not reading the labels? Me potentially consuming something that is no longer in my diet or in my lifestyle. Not only that, if I do consume dairy or sugar, I know those are two of the most inflammatory things we can put in our body. I'm going to physically and mentally reap the benefits, or reap the results of consuming those things unintentionally. So it's really important for me to read, because that helps me establish and stay true to my plant-based vegan diet, right? And so I read everything, even on personal care items, right? My toothpaste, my deodorant, my shampoo, my soap, right? My hand lotion. I read everything. It's just really important for me because I want to make sure there's no perfumes or colorants or thickeners or alcohols, because I'm very, very tuned in to what goes in and on my body, because I know it can have a short-term and long-term impact on my health, right? Another non-negotiable, which I've stated a couple times here today, is I do not consume refined sugar, right? I read the label on everything, or if I'm dining out, I question everything. What is this made with? What is this sweetened with? Because I don't consume refined sugar. Now, again, what's the science that helps me keep this as a non-negotiable? Well, I speak and teach for a living, okay? And so oftentimes I'm, speaking or lecturing to help someone save their own life or the life of someone they love, right? I'm talking health, I'm talking chronic disease prevention and reversal, I'm talking weight loss, I'm talking stress management, I'm talking emotional intelligence. I'm often teaching entrepreneurship. And so for all of those reasons, it's really, really important that my brain stays super sharp. I run 3 companies full time, 2 of my own, and then I'm also the executive director of an organization called the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group. So I run 3 companies full time. So I have staff, I have to problem solve, I have to create content, I have to hire, I have to let go, I have to manage people, I have to manage money. Like, there's so much that goes into my day-to-day as an entrepreneur that I cannot even risk me not firing on all cylinders mentally, right? Now, the reason that sugar is a non-negotiable for me, with all that being said, is not because of my waistline. I, believe it or not, am not worried at all about gaining any of that 65 pounds back. No, wanting to maintain a certain pant size for me was not a good enough reason to make sugar a non-negotiable. I know that sugar is one of the top causes of Alzheimer's, memory loss, and inability to concentrate. I also know that sugar is one of the top causes of inflammation in our body. And I know sugar leads cancer. I know sugar causes nerve damage or neuropathy. I know sugar is really one of the worst things we can put in our bodies. But for me, the key thing is how it impacts the brain, because I've been on stages before giving up sugar. I've been on stages and held mics and couldn't recall science as quick as I needed to help the audience. Now, the audience didn't know that I couldn't recall those things. I was in my mind trying to access the data, and I could access enough to navigate the conversation and help the people out to the best of my ability. And they still walked away with some information that they didn't know. But I had to sleep with myself that night knowing that there was something that I forgot up there on that stage. And I could actually think and say, oh my God, the day before I had had a cookie or a donut or alcoholic drink, and I simply could not access that information because I know sugar causes memory loss. And so for me, consuming sugar would literally impact my business. It would impact my ability to impact my audience lives. It impacts my money. So sugar for me is a non-negotiable for all of those reasons. So do you see how these non-negotiables are attached to something deeper? You should be able to explain at a high level why this thing is a non-negotiable for you, right? And so those are three of mine. Water every single day, no matter what, no matter where I am. If I go on vacation, I'm out of town, the first thing I do, is go get a case of water or something to take back to the hotel or the Airbnb. Like, I get my water in, I do not play. I even, believe it or not, like when I have to fly somewhere, I used to be one of the people who would say, like, I want my entire day at whatever city I'm going to, because I love, love, love traveling. So I would get the earliest flight. Like, if there's a 5 a.m. flight, a 6 a.m. flight, I want it because I want to spend that whole day, at our destination. But I don't do that anymore. Since water became a non-negotiable, I would actually prefer to take like a noon, 1 or 2 o'clock flight so I can literally get in at least 85 ounces of water before I leave, especially if I know that it's going to be a long day of traveling. Like if it's not a 2-hour flight or something, but it's more like like, for example, in March, I went to Spain, right? And so that was a really long flight. So I made sure I booked a flight that left at like 2 in the afternoon so I can get all my water in early before I had to head to the airport. That's how important and how serious I am with my non-negotiables. Ain't that something? And so it really is important that you craft your life around these non-negotiables. Now, let me give you one more non-negotiable that I have, because this one is really important to me too. I eat plants every single day, no matter what. Okay. So like, I'm a plant-based vegan. And for me, plant is the operative word there. Right. And so I don't believe in vitamins and supplements. So I'm all about getting everything I need from my plate. And so I'm very serious about eating plants every single day. Right. And so my water every day, my plants every day. I read the ingredients on every single thing, and I do not consume refined sugar. Like, those are some non-negotiables for me that I never, ever been doing. Okay. Now let me give you, but as we begin to wrap up, some kind of fail safes with non-negotiables so you can be careful, because as you learn things throughout this education series, and reading books and going to talks and lectures and joining support groups and enrolling in courses and all the wonderful things you're going to do to collect all the knowledge you need to be successful, I want to make sure you understand that as you're establishing these non-negotiables, you want to be very careful with jumping into the fire too quick with this non-negotiable. One thing I recommend is, first things first, only establish one at a time. I didn't come up with all 4 of those in one day and just decided overnight these were non-negotiables and I was never going to mess up again. I established them slowly. I mastered one thing before I established the next non-negotiable. Now, these non-negotiables don't mean that you have some other things that you will and won't do. Like, for example, I exercise a lot. Like, I love exercise. I've never lost the passion from exercise. And I'm no longer a personal trainer. I only teach nutrition now, but I exercise a lot. However, exercise is not a non-negotiable for me. Like if life gets crazy and I'm working and things are just crazy, I could go 4 or 5 days without exercise and I'm not beating myself up about it. So there are some things in my life that are core values that still aren't non-negotiables, if that makes sense. Now, I'll never go a week, I'll never go more than 7 days without exercise, but I don't have anything that says I exercise every day or I exercise at least 5 days a week. No, I just don't. That's not it's a core value, but it's not a non-negotiable. So there's can be things in your life that has flexibility. So non-negotiables are things you assign to that have absolutely no flexibility. I have non-negotiables in my money. I have non-negotiables in my businesses. I have non-negotiables in my relationships with people, right? But I also have things that are core values, but that are flexible. Okay. So understand that about non-negotiables. It can't be flexible. And that's why you have to either attach that science or that deep enough understanding of it as to why you can't flex on it. Right. For me, because I don't believe in vitamins and supplements, I have to eat plants every day because my plate is my vitamin. So if I don't eat these plants every day, I can potentially become deficient in a critical nutrient because I didn't take my vitamins. I don't believe in popping a pill or scooping out a powder. I believe in chewing my vitamins. And so that's why it's a non-negotiable, because I understand that those plants are responsible for helping me continue to thrive at a high level, right? It's the reason I don't have any chronic conditions. I'm not on prescribed drugs. I don't have any joint pain. Emotionally and mentally, I'm thriving because I know partly because of the plants I eat every single day. So you have to attach a really significant meaning to that non-negotiable. Okay, a few more takeaways. So number one, make sure you're not trying to turn a core value into a non-negotiable. A core value can still be something that you believe in wholeheartedly and that you do, but there may be flexibility with it. Okay, a non-negotiable is also a core value, but there's no flexibility with it. Okay, the next thing you need to be careful with non-negotiables is what I mentioned earlier: establishing too many too soon before you've mastered any. So if you haven't mastered your water yet and you decide you want that to be one of your non-negotiables, master it. Don't call it a non-negotiable until you've mastered it. What reinforcements, do you need to put in place? What levels of accountability need to be there for you to master drinking your water on a regular basis? And once it's your new normal, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's just something you literally do, and you don't deviate from. You can safely call it a non-negotiable and move on to establishing another. Because in health, you can get overwhelmed really quickly with trying to do too much too soon, especially with trying to adopt a plant-based lifestyle. You're like, okay, I got to watch for dairy. I got to watch for meat. Now, what do I eat instead of meat? Oh my God, am I getting all my nutrients? What about this protein thing, right? And so you're trying to process too much at once. And so you don't want to put extra overwhelm on yourself by trying to establish too many firm things too soon. So master one thing, then move on to the next. It's a wonderful book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And he talks about in this book, he talks about focusing in zeroing in on just one thing and doing it at a very high level. And so I highly recommend that book. Now, he speaks from a business standpoint. It's really about business and tackling to-do lists and things like that. But it will be really, really, really helpful in establishing your non-negotiables, because he really teaches you some really tangible formulas that you can use to focus in on that one thing. Okay, so it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller. Okay, so final thing, let's review. One of the things that I've been able to successfully do to keep my weight off and to stay true to a plant-based vegan diet, a no sugar diet, a minimally processed diet, is I've established non-negotiables in my health. These are all core values, but these are core values with no flexibility. Okay, I've established them slowly over time, and I just rinse and repeat that same model in every area of my life. And this will be a game changer for you, because no matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone's doing, and again, most importantly, no matter how you're feeling, you still do this, right? Because it's a part of you. It's literally the difference between doing versus becoming. You can do the things that a person would do that says they have this core value. But when you become the person who has this core value, that's a very different way of existing. And so make sure you're not just going out and going through the motions of buying the water bottle, buying the gym shoes, enrolling in the course, buying the produce. But you haven't really done the work to unlearn your own way of thinking and establish a new way of processing things, of thinking, and you haven't, that you've gained new knowledge about the thing that you're trying to adopt into your life. Because just taking the steps that somebody else is taking, that's called modeling behavior. And just modeling behavior won't get you far. You will get results initially, but we're talking about long term and still having those same results years later. So modeling behavior is not enough. You have to become the person who deeply believes in those principles, those core values. And you do that by gaining and gathering new information, learn it with your head, apply it with your hands, and then you know it by heart. That's a wonderful quote from one of my favorites, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Learn it with your head, apply it with your hands, and then know it by heart. And you will slowly notice that you will change who you are. You will become a different person. And then those non-negotiables will be much easier to adhere to. I hope this was helpful. It's been a pleasure being with you here to you today. Whatever you need to hear again, you better hit pause, repeat, write it down, fast forward, share it with a friend, and go out, establish those non-negotiables, and watch your life change for the better. Until next time, guys, take care.